Sits of the Week.
I forgot that we had to.
Hey, look, you got to go with what you got.
No, and I have to. I'm the audio person of the show, and I was out of town.
Yep.
And they were in a crunch, the fellas, and Andy did a spectacular job.
Thank you.
At hacking something together.
Good enough.
Yeah, good enough. And now I'll ready. I will fix that up.
We'll sit that audio drop next week.
We'll get it polished. There you go. Hey, all right, let's start it. Sits of the week. My quarterback sit of the week is none other than Tyrod Taylor. Let me read you the numbers that Kansas City has been giving up to fantasy quarterbacks the last 4 weeks. 9, 14, 6, 8. They be shutting people down.
Wait, quarterback numbers?
Those are the numbers that quarterbacks have been giving up.
Is that bad?
That's not good. Those are not kicker numbers. Those are quarterback numbers. Tyrod Taylor's also banged up. Hasn't been that great in fantasy the last few starts. So sit him down. Pick somebody else, like Brian Hoyer.
Yeah, my quarterback sit of the week this week is Matty Ice. Matt Ryan.
Throwing ice.
Yeah, he was right now he is currently not even in the top 12 for fantasy quarterbacks, but his name and his main target and Julio, they make you want to play him, and sometimes he's a good play, right? Andy had him
last week
as a stream of the week, and he was great. Or I believe start of the week. This week, however, he's going up against Minnesota. And what we see from those Minnesota Vikings is, generally speaking, low-scoring games. We've seen that with Atlanta recently as well. So I just don't expect enough volume in this game to be a guy that's going to win you a week. I could see him having a down week. So I would sit Matt Ryan for other options this week.
I'm going to throw this in there for you. Last week was the first week all year that he had 3 touchdowns. Do you know that?
Yep.
He has not had a 3-touchdown game except for last week.
Matt Ryan has been very disappointing. And my sit of the week at the quarterback position is Russell Wilson. And last week against San Francisco was his first multi-TD home game of the year, and now the Steelers are coming in, and the Steelers have revamped their defense. They are no longer the laughing stock of the NFL at the defensive side of the ball. So I don't think Russell Wilson is going to give you the quarterback numbers that you need.
Totally agree. Why don't you give us your running back?
My running back, I'm going to sit Latavius Murray this week. It's been a rough couple weeks. He's averaging 3 yards a carry the last 2 games, and Tennessee has been surprisingly tough against running backs. So if I have a better option than Latavius, I'm going to throw him out there.
Okay.
For me, I'm gonna sit Jeremy Langford this week because Matt Forte is back. You don't know how it's going to split up. I agree with you. I don't think that Matt Forte comes back in and gets 90% of the carries, but he said he was good to play last week. And so he took this extra time for this Thursday night game to get a little bit healthier. And so while we have to remember Langford in the beginning of the year, he was already used a little bit as a touchdown vulture. So it wasn't a 90% split in the beginning of the year anyways. So I just think you're going to see Langford go back a little bit more to what you had. You probably have other options because you picked him up off the waiver. I wouldn't feel comfortable starting Langford with Matt Forte back.
Jeremy Langford or Matt Jones?
Oh, man. I'm going to go with Jones.
Jeremy Langford or C.J. Anderson?
I think I actually have C.J. Anderson decent this week, but no, I'm gonna go Langford over C.J.
Langford just for the touchdown.
They're both backups.
My running back sit of the week is James Starks against the Chicago Bears. The tide is turning once again towards Eddie Lacy, who had a very big week. I think the Packers realize, and we all realize, that James Starks is really, really good in the change of pace role, and he really hasn't been good in that starting role. And I really don't want to start a change the pace back this week against Chicago. Limited snaps. I just don't want him in my lineup, so I'm sitting James Starks down. Very similar arguments to Jeremy Langford being set down. So my wide receiver sit of the week, Tavon Austin. Tavon Austin is still I believe he's 23 in our league in the wide receiver rankings, but he's had a terrible last couple of weeks. He's going up against Cincinnati, and I don't like the matchup. I think it's time to sit him down until he shows you something else. They have a different quarterback in play now. Case Keenum should start.
If cleared, he's going to start. Yeah,
looking like he will. But Tavon Austin, I don't want to start him. I'd choose somebody else.
And Tavon is that's exactly kind of what we expected, where the guy is getting just such a low opportunity that what he was doing was not sustainable. I mean, he kept proving us wrong where he had a great stretch of a few weeks, but not sustainable. So I agree. I'm moving on.
The guy that I'm going to sit is going to be Davante Adams.
Oh,
wow.
Davante Adams to me is, I went out on a limb and
You called him out.
I said that he stinks. The reason that he's definitely startable is because he's normally the number one target for Aaron Rodgers. Well, that's just great. Even if you stink, you're going to have production. This last week, however, he did not. James Jones was the guy that was involved. He only had 3 for 36 this last week, and this week he is going up against the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears, you might not think of as a great defense, but for the last month, the last 4 games consecutively, including matchups against, Phillip Rivers, they have not given up 150 total yards to wide receivers in a game. In fact, the last 2 weeks,
wide receivers.
To all combined wide receivers on a team, the last 2 weeks, they haven't even given up 100 total yards from all of those. Now, I expect maybe those to be broken by Aaron Rodgers this week, but I just don't feel comfortable starting Davante Adams when he can drop the few passes he's going to be getting in a game that against a good defense.
Did get reported that Ty Montgomery is out this week yet again. All right, so Mike.
I am going to sit. My sit of the week at wide receiver is T.Y. Hilton.
All right.
And this is because Tampa Bay, over the last 2 weeks, is only giving up 10 catches and 100 yards to the wide receiver core. To all wide receivers, that's all they're giving up on average the last couple weeks. And Hilton last week, 2 for 21 against Atlanta. We know the limitations of Hasselbeck. So, and Hilton absolutely can take one of those short passes and bust it open, but that's not the kind of play that I want to have to count on from my starting wide receiver.
And I want to make sure that when we talk about sits of the week, we're not talking about the fact that Mike is going to sit T.Y. Hilton at all costs.
Right.
He's saying that this is my perspective on this guy this week. He's a starting wide receiver, right? But Mike has him as opposed to up in that starting echelon range. He has him at 31 this week. He's got guys like Michael Crabtree, Golden Tate, Jarvis Landry, Amari Cooper, Alan Hearns. These are guys that he has ahead of him. We're saying if you've got a better option, the kind of you take a temperature of this game and T.Y. Hilton comes out not so good.
Yeah, these are guys we could call this segment guys we don't like very much this
Right.
week, but that just doesn't sound as good as Sits of the Week. So.
Right. I totally agree.
It's all about branding.
We're going to do tight ends.
All right, let me kick off the tight ends.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to kick off the tight ends.
Do we have a good – I don't even know if we have a drop for this.
Eric Ebron.
Whatever. Good
Last week, Mike's.
I see how it happened.
Well, he had the best matchup last week against Oakland. Eric Ebron started the year on fire. He is a talented guy, but he hasn't been able to catch the ball recently. In his last 3 combined games, his last 3 that he started and been healthy in, he has 7.5 total fantasy points in all 3 combined. So this week he's going up against the team that is second best against the tight end. The Philadelphia Eagles have given up the second fewest points to tight end, which means he should not be played, and he is going to go off this week. He's going to score 700 fantasy points. Eric Ebron, the bane of our listeners' existence this last week.
And your sit of the week.
And my sit of the week.
My sit of the week, Charles Clay. He has disappeared from the Buffalo offense. He's still the leading pass catcher on that team, but the last few weeks it's just it's not happening for Clay. I'm not sure exactly what's going on, and
he's gone ghost.
He has to take on the Kansas City Chiefs, who are on fire as a defense. So
I picked Charles Clay as my sit of the week, and when I went in the doc, I saw you already had him, so I definitely agree.
I'm going to go with Jason Witten. You just can't trust it right now. Going up against Carolina on Thanksgiving, single digits the last 4 games. I don't see it changing against Carolina. That's the long and the short of it.